Hey, team players, welcome back. Today's going to be awesome. Today is another multi-million dollar making moment. Let's go win some money here on DraftKings. Let's go make some amazing things happen. This is going to be the one where it's like, you know what? I think I saw that guy win that $1 million. You sure did, and it's happening right now.
Clever.
As always, Bob is here in the house, and Bob's doing some beautiful things. Big, beautiful things from Bob right now.
Doubtful.
Come on, have some faith in your drafting.
Just trying to, make things not fall apart, as they say. All right, so let's get it up. Let's get this going here. But yes,
Let's start with that.
Just some news from the last couple of days. Finally, Joe, as I said to you, I'm done with the Scott Fishbowl draft. It was quite the interesting experience.
I still have 5 rounds left in mine.
And I'll tell you what, one thing that I found out from Scott Fishbowl is that people really like to lean into the, whenever you do a draft, you lean into the scoring system. There was one guy in my draft pool that took like 7 early tight ends. Like every time I would want a tight end, he would just take them on the turn. And it was so mind-numbingly like annoying that I just was like, I was like, okay, I'll just go with another wide receiver, I guess. I mean, the tournament, the odds of winning that tournament is crazy. And, as people have said, there's no top prize or anything. It's just like notoriety, right? Like you want to win. Mm-hmm. You want to go up against the best of the best. You want to go up against people, and you just want to win. So, I mean, like, that's kind of what we're doing. I ended up with actually 3 good quarterbacks out of that. And
that's solid. Hey, guys, we're going to click the start of the draft here at, what we're going to do it, 4:04. 4:04, we're going to do the 30-second version. This is the Millie Maker, man, the $20 buy-in on DraftKings.
All right.
At 4:04 Eastern time. For all you watching, let's make this happen.
Well, it's 4:04 right now. Am I clicking?
You're clicking.
All right, I'm clicked in. We're in. All right, so there's 7 out of 12 people in so far. And I think that I think here in DraftKings that we're going to be seeing a lot of different things that we don't see in Underdog. But also the fact that this is a PPR. I'm really looking in the first couple of rounds to maximize where the volume is going. I want to get at least one running back that has pass catching upside. In this kind of tournament, maybe I'm shying a little bit away from Derrick Henry, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes here. So, pulling up the draft board here, Joe. Let me make this bigger.
I am 5th. And you are 7th.
All right. So
we're close-ish. We're not, at least not touching, but we're close-ish.
We have somebody with some established run on their moniker there. Got a couple people in. Nice. Oh man, we have Jay Herzig in here. Okay.
Let's deal with some known players here, baby.
I wonder if that's Justin Herzig from the podcast. Just curious.
Could be.
5 through 7 here. What I'm really looking for here at the 7 spot is I really want either Puka or Gibbs here, potentially reaching to get a guy like Nico or Amon-Ra. I really want that projectable volume. Maybe you.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Bob, because I'm taking Collins at 5. I can tell you that right now. I'm taking Collins.
You can make an argument too that a guy like Devin Achane in the offense that they're in right now, with how the offensive line isn't that great insofar as that's true, really could by the end of August really get you up into the top of the first round, or into the bottom of the first round at the very minimum, I think. All right. playing around.
So the reason I will be taking Collins at 5, and I'm almost 100% certain Collins will be my pick at 5, even over J-Jeff, by the way, is because I believe Collins is going to be the best receiver in football. He should have been the one. Had he not gotten hurt, he would have been last year. He would have surpassed Chase. People are not giving him credit for that. The other thing is that I don't think Cincinnati's holding up. I have too many concerns about the fact that you can run right through Cincinnati's defense and people are going to play keep away from them. Houston has a great defense. You ain't doing that to them. I think Stroud is a quarterback who his rookie year we loved and then we took away from. And I think the beneficiary of all this is Collins. And I get that this is nuts that I'm taking him this early, but I'm taking Collins at 5.
I mean, I see it. I see everything that you're talking about because I do understand, Nico's volume is going to be one of those. The offensive line, like you said, is pretty bad. They're going to have to force the ball into places, and we'll see how this offense actually does kind of work out in the middle of, camps. But I think that Nico's probably going to honestly fall into the second round for most people, most drafts. And if you're lucky enough to get the 9 spot, you might even be able to come across with like Amon-Ra and Nico in the first 2 rounds, which I think is
I know I'm not getting him at 20, so I'm taking him at 5.
What's happening, Jamie? We're just doing
think that I'm the nuts drafter from the start
here. Yeah, and
I tell you guys this up front. I look in the camera and say this with passion. Never be afraid to be the crazy person. People give the crazy person birth. Never be afraid.
You see here in this draft, what we were saying is that you want pass catchers, you want pass catching upside out of your running backs. You are most likely going to see Derrick Henry fall into the second round here. I wanted Gibbs or Puka, got Gibbs. CeeDee Lamb, I think, is like we talked about on Monday. I think CeeDee Lamb's an incredible option. Last year being drafted as one of the top wide receivers, if not the top wide receiver off the board, the situation seems to have gotten a little bit better. Yeah, you could argue that target share is not necessarily going to be the same because George Pickens is there, but also you have arguably a healthier Dak Prescott, probably a healthier running game. You have more support. And I think
I'm not sure about that.
Going to be good for Lamb. I think it's going to be good for Lamb. Joe is not scared to be the crazy guy. You know that dark side. You know that dark side. But what I'm saying here about CeeDee Lamb is I think that where he's being drafted as the 3rd wide receiver off the board isn't actually a terrible spot for him. But I could absolutely see guys like Puka, Amon-Ra, and Malik Neighbors finish the season ahead of him. But I see the reasons for going after CD, and I still like CD. I mean, again, he's coming off a year where he performed adequately, if not well, with Cooper Rush, and he got
Yo family, welcome. This is also the first turn where we're supposed to remind all of you watching on replays. There are many of you. Come join us live. We start at 3:45 Eastern. We obviously answer all your questions as we go, and you can join in a draft with us. So that's the perks of seeing us live. And now, Bob, where are you looking at here coming up? 5 picks away or so.
Like I said, if Achan's there, I'm taking Achan, getting potentially 2 of the better pass catching running backs. He goes, obviously. I don't expect him. I didn't expect him to fall. There goes Derrick Henry, like I was saying. A combination of Amon-Ra and Derrick Henry's good volume, but you want that little extra oomph, I think, in the first couple of rounds for your running backs. And I'm not sure that Derrick Henry gets me there in terms of the pass catching upside, but he gets me there in other ways. I think that this combination of Genty, Achan, and Henry could easily, in other drafts, swap positions with Amon-Ra, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. Those 6 are, typically speaking, all in there. I mean, it's hard to argue against them.
Jamie, that's a good question. In Scott Fishbowl, would you rather have Kelsey or Sutton? Personally, I'm going to go with Sutton because for the Fishbowl, they give the extra point for the tight end catch. But you have to have volume. And Kelsey's not at the point where his volume is so much superior to Sutton. It's also only a 50% improvement. So when I look at this all in, I want to be in a spot where I get the volume, and that leans me to Sutton.
So,
and Bob,
Jamie,
who am I taking? You know who I'm taking.
Yes. So, Jamie, this is kind of where I'm at on tight ends in the Scott Fishbowl. Like I took Trey McBride in the first round, and I think once you get past McBride and Bowers, Kelce is a good option, but I feel like his usage could dip a little bit, knowing that Mahomes is still Mahomes and still likes Kelce. That's all part of the facts there. But the fact of the matter is that they do have Rice back. They do have Hollywood Brown. They do have, Pacheco back. They do have Xavier Worthy. So the need to pass for volume to Kelce, I think, is not going to happen as much. But where Kelce's interesting is that he could still be a reliable touchdown guy. And if you can see Travis Kelce getting 3 catches or 4 catches and a touchdown in 7-ish games, I think that he could be a good option where he's being drafted at in Scott Fishbowl. Would I rather have Sutton? I'm not entirely sure if I would want either of these guys, but I could see a reason for taking both of them. I think that Kelce, for me, goes just a little bit more because it's that 3.5 points per reception for tight ends. And 3.5 points per reception.
But it's also 2.5
upside there. It is, but I think that Kelce right now in his career, if he's on the field and they get it to the red zone, he is still one of those machines. Like
Kelsey's probably going to out touchdown him. That's why it's a volume question to me.
Yeah, I see the reasons for that. We appreciate it, Dark Side. We appreciate watches on replay. We appreciate lives. This strategy right here is interesting to me, going 3 running backs like with the Chase Brown early. I was hoping Chase Brown would fall back to me. Family made a big deal in Dynasty, Win Now Dynasty. I sent Devonta Smith, Sam Howell, Felton, mid-second for Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Pollard, and early third. I do think it's risky, but I do like it because here's the thing. Tyreek right now, you see Tyreek being drafted here in the 3rd round of Best Ball Draft. And Tyreek is one of those players that is, if given the opportunities, is extremely elite. And Devontae Adams, for me, is one of the top players that you can draft around like this, conversation right now in like the 3rd, 4th rounds of drafts. And I think that when you look at touchdown upside and you look at other things, I think that potentially speaking, Devontae Adams is going to be a great deal in most drafts. I'm going to take him here, by the way. I was thinking about Kyron. But when you look at a guy like Adams and you look at a guy like Hill, I do see them, even though like they're on the tail ends probably of their illustrious careers, I still see them in Dynasty as being win now. And I think that that's a phenomenal move for you, family. Jamie said he was leaning Sutton since they didn't bring in any competition. But here's the thing. I was just reading. I mean, again, this comes from Roto World, so, take it for what you will. Marvin Mims is potentially going to be the second wide receiver. But what the piece that they did bring in that is the competition for targets for me, and I'm going to say it again over and over again, is Evan Ingram. I mean, Ingram proved to be a target earner in Jacksonville when given the opportunities to earn targets. Then you go out, you have the rookie Pat Bryant. There's comparisons to Michael Thomas. You take that for what it's worth at face value. You go out, you bring in J.K. Dobbins, you bring in R.J. Harvey. This offense is going to be different than it was last year, just with the addition of a tight end, which they didn't have a reliable enough piece of that. They had Troutman and they had a couple other guys that they were streaming in and out. But when you have a pass-catching tight end in the vein that Evan Ingram is, I think that Sutton's targets are safe enough. But I do think that the challenge for him is the fact that they brought in Ingram, and not to mention that when we get closer to the end zone now, they do have potentially more reliable running backs on the roster than they had last year. It's a recipe that makes me not want to take Sutton at his 4th round ADP here in DraftKings, but makes me want to take a chance on him if he falls to the 5th, or if he falls to like the end of the 4th round and I'm sitting there and he's still there. I just see that there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, well, Sutton's floor is really, 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 really safe. And I agree that it's safe enough that he's probably not going to dip below 6 or 7 touchdowns, and he's going to have a good amount of volume. But again, I am concerned enough that Ingram could take enough volume away from him. See, the Tyler Warren era is here, Joe. The Tyler Warren era is here. Magic, it depends on what format. It really depends on what format we're in and which one that I would prefer. So if we're speaking about DraftKings here, I think that I'm Chase Brown, JT, and Kyron. If it's underdog, then I'm JT Brown and then Kyron. And I think that Kyron's volume right now is like really good. And sitting here because he doesn't have a lot of pass catching upside, that's why he's here in the 4th round. But in underdog, he easily goes 3rd round. So I mean, like there's a lot to say that getting Kyron where you can get Kyron at is worth it.
You taking Hurts?
You know? No, I'm taking Cook there. Taking Cook as a bring back to Brown. I think he's the best bring back in week 17 to the Eagles. And I don't really want to mess around with the Buffalo wide receivers. I'm okay not drafting Hurts in DraftKings because there's bonuses for pocket passers that Hurts sometimes doesn't clear. And I'm okay setting myself up to not have Hurts this time. Seeing that he may or may not come back to me, knowing that 2 quarterbacks already went, kind of just playing with fire there, I think. But reasonably speaking, if you're in a redraft league and that redraft league is half PPR, there's reason to believe that guys like JT and Kyron, and especially Kyron with a little bit more touchdown upside, is a better play where the positional value is. Like if I could get Kyron in the 4th over Chase Brown in the 3rd, and I could pick up an extra wide receiver in the 3rd round in the likes of the Evans, Jackson Smith, Adams, etc., I would probably do that. But I do like Chase Brown right now at this point in the season because the competition just isn't there. So 10 plus yards TDs also gets you the first down point. Yeah, absolutely. And so when we look at Scott Fishbowl and we look at that scoring, it's so unique that the first down merchants do matter. So like Sutton does make a difference, but also Kelsey, and I do get that the Kelsey's era is over, but if he is on the field, he is going to be a target for Patrick Mahomes.
He's going to be on a pitch count. They're going to use him when he's out there.
But also, like, he is a first down guy too. I don't have a problem with either of them, but I'm probably fading both of them realistically in that contest.
I would make an argument that Kelsey's production is going to get hurt most by Rice, and he's a direct hurt by Rice guy. If Rice doesn't get suspended, I don't know how much Kelsey I really want. And it doesn't look like Rice getting suspended. Like, they're going to lose some time to announce that.
Rice is playing. I mean, he's coming back from an injury. He's playing. I took him in the 3rd round. A little bit of an overpay, I think, on him for Scott Fishbowl. Here he goes in the 3rd round as well. But his ceiling is wide receiver 1 overall. Let's just understand that, guys. Like, Rashee Rice was on pace last year to light it up. And we're talking about Nico in the 1st, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 1st, Drake London in the 2nd. Rashee Rice in the 3rd could potentially be your early round league winner. I mean, he is one of those players that was so elite with Patrick Mahomes that you can't do it again. He will be able to continue to do it again. Like, other people will not be able to match that. Son of a bitch. Why would you do that to me, Croc? That was bullshit. Absolutely.
Because he wanted to piss you off, Bob. That's right. He knows he hates you. He knows he hates you, so he didn't let you have your quarterback. Now, why he platooned his own team in the process is a secondary question, but
that was garbage. Oh my God, that made me so mad. Like, he was coming around, and I'm sitting here going, like, waiting. Whatever.
I
mean, and Joe Burrow still being on the board right now, going away from the Chase and T. Higgins owner is wild to me, because he is most likely going to get snapped up here at the 110 spot at 5'10", or at 6'3", knowing that this guy has Jane Daniels. He's going to get snapped up, but if he makes it back to me at the 66, I'm taking him. because that is a drop that you just don't see. And I'm curious why they decide to go Waddle and Tet over him, because the value there for Burrow is fine enough. I mean, it's not like elite, but it's fine enough. Magic, in terms of this question, I would rather have Walker at his value rather than the rise in Kamara. If you were with us on Underdog during the first millionaire draft that we did on Underdog this year, I was able to get Kamara in the 6th round. And I think on Underdog, Kamara's value is right where I would want to pay for Kamara. But right now, Kamara in the 4th round, Joe picked him because he probably knew he wanted to get Kamara and Hubbard, and he knew he wasn't he knew he wasn't going to be able to do that if he passed up on one of them. So I think Kamara is planted firmly in the 5th round for most people. And I think that he could absolutely light it up. I mean, he is older, but when you look at the options on the field, he is one of the better options on that team and in that division. And you say to yourself, well, where could it be like that he wouldn't return value? Well, if he gets hurt, because he's a PPR merchant. And if whoever's the quarterback, whether it's Shook, whether it's Hayner, whether it's, whoever, the rattling gun, you maybe Shook is not good at passing to running backs. So maybe that hurts him a little bit because
everyone's good at passing to running backs.
Right now in his career, he isn't the most electric behind through the tackles runner, right?
No.
His money is made in PPR. And if I can get, 30, 40 points out of Kamara, just taking a look here, he had that big game, 47 points, 115 yards. But his rushing numbers, you're looking at a 112-yard game, great. 155-yard game, great. Those are both against pretty terrible run defense last year. But pretty much you look right here, and here. Those aren't good numbers. But then you get over here and you're like, oh, well, I'm getting minimum 8 points from him just catching passes. So I think that Kamara is an absolutely elite weapon. And as it goes to Ken Walker, I think Ken Walker is also an elite weapon. There goes Joe Burrow. You knew it was coming. I mean, the fact that he slipped to 64, that's insanity to me. I don't understand that at all. All right. Let's build out a little bit of a room.
What are you thinking, Bob? Tough question. Tough time to.
Yeah, I like Laporta.
Magic. I'm on Team Kamara, and it's especially in DraftKings because Kamara is going to catch a ton of balls. Everything Bob said, he's not a between the hill runner anymore, but he is a guy that will get you a lot of catches. And really, New Orleans has 2 viable weapons in the short game. It's got Olave and it's got Kamara. That's it. So
Juwan,
they're going to have to force it to him. It's a young quarterback. Sure, they're going to shuck the Shaheed because that's what they do. But so this is I would give this your little broader spectrum.
Bones, we're on DraftKings today, and we're in the Millie Maker on DraftKings. Somebody verify for me. Do you think that is Justin Herzig or somebody playing around as Herzig? Because I think that's really, they'll be talking about that if that is. But we're sitting here. I'm at 7. Joe's at 5.
Crazy guy.
I'm at 7. Joe's at 5. Yeah, Pollard was a luxury that you could move. He's my running back 5. I think he's a good running back 5. I mean, quite frankly, I think he's a good running back 3 or 4 as well if you decide to do no running backs in the first couple of rounds. But just know that coaches have said, and Spears has produced when healthy. So I would be, hesitant to.
Dude, you have 5 receivers. You didn't need a lot of it.
See, it's maddening. This guy with Hurts, this guy over here with Olave, killing me. But
dude, I'm sitting there being there's no way there's going to be a running back. I thought there was going to be a running back run after me. And I had 4 receivers queued up, and they just all went.
All just went. So far in Jamie's Scott Fishbowl team, he's got Barkley, Taylor, Kamara, all top 12 points per game in the scoring last year. Hubbard and Higgins, both top 30 numbers last year. Barkley, Taylor, and Kamara is amazing. Hubbard and Higgins, to have those 5 means you had a really good position in the draft. I am ruining my position at 6. Not a huge fan of what was left over for me in the 3rd round. That's why I kind of went Rice, because everybody started getting like pinged off the board when it was my time to shine, and it really kind of threw me for a loop. So there goes. So Judkins is still on the board. I've heard some news that they might still use Ford, but I think that Judkins could be falling value eventually. Caleb Johnson could be interesting. Pollard, Downs. I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with.
Yeah, Downs ain't coming back to me. That was the choice I just made.
I'm going to go Pearsall here. I like Pearsall.
Either way, Downs isn't getting past you twice. I constantly chose Cup. I got him ranked a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at my team right now, am I like over the moon with it? No, but I think that when it comes to PPR, I think there's enough upside in the team that I have. There goes Downs right there. That's fine. I'm okay with that. There's enough upside.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of receiver roulette. I mean, that's just the way my team's built.
So Family Queensland pulled it off to win last night in the State of Origin game 3, 24-12. Nice. That's good to hear, Family, honestly. I'm not going to say anything against rugby league. I'm not going to say anything against it. The captain's father passed away over the weekend while the players were in camp. There was a lot of emotion. It's nice. It's nice to see when teams rally around a guy that's experiencing something, or rally around a girl who's experiencing something, and then they win it, just like to honor that. I think it's really nice to have that in sports. Family, if I could have got Burrow there, that would have been amazing. I'd have been over the moon with Burrow rather than Laporta.
You would have been from super sad to super happy.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think, quite frankly, if I'm being honest, in PPR, most of these guys in round 7, and I've said it before, are very much interchangeable to me with how I think their weekly production can be. It just depends upon like what matchups do you value,
what week do they explode. That's exactly it.
What weeks do they explode in? Like this one right here, like you'll see, like I've got a Brown and Cook. I don't have the quarterback bring back. That I'm okay with that. Gibbs, I don't have anything from Minnesota. I'm okay with that right now. Walker, I don't have anything from Carolina. Maybe I build in a Bryce Young week 17 a little bit later. I've got Laporta and Gibbs already. Two targets. Maybe I build in Goff here in the 9th round when it comes to it. Pearsall leaves me a little bit of Brock Purdy if I want it. It also builds in potentially a little bit of Caleb Williams or Chicago if I want it. Almost took Rome when I took Laporta. We'll see how it turns out. I think that all the teams in this room are actually doing pretty well. The team is going to stink this year. When you look at the Saints are not built for success this year. And if they win 6 games this year, I will call that a good season.
You don't believe in Kellen Moore?
No, I believe in Kellen Moore, but when you have 3 quarterbacks that like right now, you drafted Shook where you took them, and then you're still saying, oh, there's a quarterback competition. Get over it. There isn't a quarterback. There can't be a quarterback competition. How can you believe that
this guy has 6 running backs?
How can you believe that Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler are going to be better than the guy you drafted in the first round? Or in this, you know what I'm saying though? Like it doesn't seem to make any sense.
There's also something to making the rookie earn it though, Bob. There's definitely something to, even if it's all lip service, there's something to making the rookie earn it.
I get that. I understand that a lot, but like I still don't see why that's even like part of the conversation. I'm going double tight end here. Get that Minnesota.
Why did that guy take 6 running backs? I have so many questions with this draft.
I don't know, because I was going to take Mooney.
I know there's people bitching on me, like, why did I take Collins?
I was going to take Mooney there, and Mooney went off the board, which I was not satisfied at. So, like, Hawkinson was the best guy.
Neither one of us are satisfied with our drafts right now. I'm taking all my guys a half a round higher.
I do like Pittman, but I've taken a lot of Pittman. Half a round higher, it's no good. That's not good value at all. If he breaks the reception,
no, they're all every player I've drafted has been ranked in my top 50 so far, though, Bob.
Yeah, so and Bones,
we're at pick 92. Every one of my guys are in the top 50.
When we look at Kamara, and like I said, I pulled up those stats from last year. You're looking at like 3 games over 100 yards, and the rest like kind of far away. He isn't like the running back anymore. That I think that's why they went after Devin Neal. They need a guy between the tackles to take some breath off of Kamara so that Kamara can be successful in doing what Kamara does the best. Yeah, if that's the real Herzig, I mean, he got a gift of Joe Burrow at 64. A gift. Puka in London is a great start. Ridley with the volume that he's going to have projectably is going to be nice. Getting Judkins at pick 81, I think, is a good steal for where Judkins is as well. Family, the last dynasty, I waited till the 6th round for a running back and got Walker and Kamara around later. I love it when you can get both of those guys around later than you need to take them. Because I think that, like, right now, Walker in the 5th round, you know, if you look at the back end of that, who else would you want to take? You can make an argument for Connor and Ridley and Henderson as well. But once you push all those running backs higher, then Harvey goes higher. And then Swift goes higher and Montgomery goes higher. So there's like a little bit of a domino effect. Yeah, they changed the scoring pretty significantly, Bones. The scoring is like 3.5 points reception for tight ends, 2.5 for wide receivers and running backs. There's a point per first down. And then if you do it in MFL, there's like points per targets. So like a guy like Amon-Ra would be like insane. Got you. The guy offered me Kamara and a late first for Gibbs in the same league. Like, that wouldn't even be in a conversation for me. You can't say a guy took another guy's job without, hold on, let me make this big. It's going to be off. Without practicing in pads. Yeah, that's a fair thing to say. When you look at guys, I mean, like, but here, realistically speaking, though, when just bringing it back to the quarterback situation in New Orleans, I don't think that any of those like Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener actually earned that job necessarily. So I guess what they're saying is that it's an open competition until we want to announce that Shook is the number 1 quarterback. You know,
that's what it is.
Najee? I don't know how to answer that question, Bones. I don't know how to answer that question. Hopefully.
What is the question, Bob? Read the question out loud. What is the question?
It's how many eyes does Najee Harris have?
I don't know he has one, and that's why he can't get to the outside, and he sees no depth.
He has one eye because he has no vision. He can't get past where, right. You know. But looking at him though, sitting here at 109, I think that when you look at this draft board and you see like where some value is still left at and where you're not going to just be like overdrafting certain players, I think that when you look at a guy like Najee, he's going to probably perform decent enough in the first half of the season. We've said this before, like weeks 1 through 6, potentially, he has a chance to perform decently well as they ramp up Hampton to like NFL speed. And then he's probably going to have a catastrophic fall off. But here's the problem though, with the Chargers schedule. First game of the year is Kansas City. So probably not going to be performing very well against Kansas City. Then Vegas, probably going to be a good game. Then Denver, probably not going to be a good game. And then the Giants, Washington, and Miami. So like there are four opportunities there for Najee to have a good game. And if you can get him down here, especially if he falls down to the 11th round, because again, he's not a super great pass catcher. If you can get him down there that low, worth it. All right, we are sitting here with not a lot of wide receivers on this team.
It's not a lot. I only have 3.
I only have 3 as well. I'd like to get that up there. So Caleb Williams just went off the board. I like the Love pick. That guy Love was not going to come back because I think that somebody was going to
compared him with Golden and Reed. He kind of telegraphed he was going to take a Love.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so common. I mean, it's just such a common build. I mean, the Kittle pick kind of like walks him away from that a little bit more. But I think that's really going to be a common build. I built it quite a few times myself. Dobbins is still there as well. Trey Harris is an interesting selection at value. I'm gonna take a chance on who do I want here? I'm gonna take a chance on Trey. I need another wide receiver here. But again, this is kind of like a wide receiver-ish dead zone where we're not really sure what's gonna happen with these wide receivers. Again, Pittman, injured last year, played through an injury, a good target earner when not injured. Brandon Ayuk, not a really great target earner, but elite-ish talent-wise when he is playing. Egbuka could be a great option. Higgins could be a great option. Shaheed, not necessarily a target earner coming back from the injury with a quarterback that can sling it if wanted to. Good option. Coleman, again, one of those players that is I haven't forgotten that you just took that, Joe. Coleman, one of those players that could be an elite option. And then Trey Harris here, could be a good target earner on a team that needs another target earner, to be honest with you, right? Oh, hey, there was a rumor he lost an eye. I did not hear about that. If he lost an eye, he should be dropping even further.
For real, like he lost an eye, like not for play. There's no way that's true.
We're going to click on Naj. You would think that RotoWire would like report on that if he lost an eye. I mean, honestly, I think that would be an important report to give. Like Najee Harris just lost.
Well, he's this guy's number 1 running back, so we'll see.
Losing an eye. There goes Spears, as we projected. Spears getting the good coach speak. I mean, it is that is what it is. I don't necessarily see it as
time of the year is what happens.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it as something that I need to kind of really be in on with when it comes to him. You got CJ Stroud late here, Joe. Good looking out. All right, Kirk. I don't really like Kirk. We'll take Kirk, though. I don't really like him right now. I think that the young guys will probably overtake him. Want to add a little bit of depth in the wide receiver room there. Not a huge fan, but it does get me some correlation to Trey Harris. It's a real rumor. I think that when we look for news to talk about in the offseason, that anything that's like fireworks related injury, like Jason Pierre-Paul had that one year, or anything else like that, or the whole Minnesota boat scandal a couple years back. I think it's just interesting to see what kind of news comes down the wire. I'm actually going to look this up right now. Harris eye. Najee Harris fireworks eye injury rumor. The post has been removed. All news must come from trusted reporters, apparently. Najee Harris shot in the eye with a firework? Najee Harris blew up his eye with a firework. So, I mean, like, it's a legitimate rumor. I'm kind of interested now, like, if he starts, remember, Joe, like when he got signed by the Chargers, people jumped him up from 10 to 6, 10th round to 6th round. Now he's back in the 10th round where he should be. All right, we got some tight ends here. We got some wide receivers here. I think Luther Burns an interesting player. I'm not sure how much volume he's going to get initially, but down here in the 12th round, I've seen him fall really late in underdog as well. I'm not really sure what to think of him or Loveland, to be honest with you. All right. I'm going to sit a little bit more on that, I think. Here's Penix. I'm going to take the guy I like. All right. So I like those two tight ends there sitting there, Joe. I know you're kind of sitting over there quiet, masterminding your team. All right. So let's see what happens here, boys. Oh, Joe left. Where did he go? All right, cool. All right, so let's review what we got so far. Joe put himself a little bit on auto there. Take Tillman. That's his boy. There goes Dallas Goedert. This team right here at the 6 hole, getting Drake May and Justin Fields, I think is good enough value. Shooting out with Harvey, Warren, and Stevenson as your 3 running backs is decent enough. There goes Bryce Young at quarterback over here at 12-10. I thought about him. He gives me kind of a stack and a bring back for the Walker game against Seattle. Not sure how I like Luther Burden here in terms of the whole scope of my team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers. So I'm ready to get back in it on a couple other players. I see Geno Smith is still available in terms of quarterback room. The quarterback room's not as bad as most people were thinking it is. Trevor's still there. Stafford, Geno, Cam Ward, Sam Darnold, all still present and accounted for. I might take Darnold there and a back end Scantling potentially. We've got to build out some of these week 8 bye weeks. All right, so let's see. I don't really want to push another week 8 guy here. Brenton Strange wouldn't be a bad week 8 guy to push. I know I don't need another tight end, but if likely is there, I would like to have him. Let's see if he's available. Stafford's up. Trevor Lawrence still on the board. I think that's honestly, I think that's kind of unique when you look at his ADP of 132. Again, there's rumor of the injury and stuff, but again, we're sitting here at now 149-ish. He hasn't been taken yet. The room's kind of cleared up. You could probably make an argument that the BTJ owner doesn't need to take him, but if he's available, he probably will. Beck. Joe goes double Raiders. There goes Geno. Taking my 3rd tight end off the board. As I said to you guys on Monday, I don't advise doing this, taking 3 early tight ends, from the 6th round to the 13th round, because when you look in this kind of space, Njoku, Andrews, Kraft, Ferguson, Warren, Kincaid, Loveland, Goddard, Jonnu, they can all outperform Hawkinson and Laporta on a week-to-week basis, and you didn't have to invest as much as I did in there. Again, I wanted to build a little bit off of that Minnesota-Detroit game in Week 17. That's the reason why I took Hawkinson and Laporta. Not necessarily that they can't have top 5 weeks, but the value for both Hawkinson and Laporta is a little bit high in terms of how you want to build a team. Then you can avoid them completely, I think. I'm wondering where Joe went there. No heads up. No heads up. No private message in the chat. Just bail. All right, so let's get the run back here. There goes Trevor down there to the Jay Herzig. Do I like Trevor and Penix together with Burrow? I don't think you needed to take both of them if you have Burrow. Cam Ward going off the board, so Darnold's probably going to be the most respectable guy left coming off the board. I don't think any of these guys will take him, to be honest, so maybe I can wait around if I want to get him, but he does have a week 8 bye, just like Goff does, so maybe this goes into Rodgers. Maybe we build Shuck or Wilson. Just guys to keep your eyes on more so than anything else. The team's setting up to be pretty decent, so I'm okay with all of that. Maybe here we take a chance on a guy like Wandale. Or Bigsby. Let's see which one falls. Don't want to go after any of those tight ends, even though I do like those tight ends. Pierce here should be able to come back if that's the guy that I want. Not quite sure if that's who I want. I do like Brenton Strange. And like I said, this is the reason, guys, to not go these early tight ends. Brenton Strange is still available. Hunter Henry's still available. Mike Gesicki's still available. All of these options are still out there, and I think are worth playing for by not taking an early tight end. So this is pick 162. Let's go after Wandale. So double week 14 bye. Doesn't really matter with Pearsall. Wandale's just kind of another guy on the roster to provide a little bit of depth. Hopefully Russell Wilson gets him the ball a little bit more. Not a huge fan of him, but at this stage of the game, I'm not going to take a fourth tight end. Ray Davis, I'm not going to handcuff Cook. I'm hoping Cook does really well. So that's kind of where we're at. We have 3 running backs, 7 wide receivers, 3 tight ends. We're going to load this room up coming up soon. Probably round 16, take another running back. We're a little bit fragile here, and that's okay. It's just another way to build. You see a couple other players here, 3 running backs, 3 running backs, 3 running backs. Yep. So we have 3 people here who are stuck on 3 running backs. There goes. Blue went in the 13th round. In this draft specifically, I think Blue's a good value in the 13th round. We don't know what he's going to do yet, but he could hit, and it's payout time for you when you're in the 13th round. And again, all these 3 guys here, Strange, Gesicki, Okonkwo, they could outperform anybody drafted higher than them, and you're getting them in the 14th round. I think Hunter Henry is one of those guys that you can buy. Theo Johnson might go in the 18th round. But I have 3 tight ends that I really like. It's a strategy we don't employ often, but it's one that can pay out. It can work. So a couple guys on the board that I do like. I like Palmer. I like Pierce. I like Bryant. Again, a guy like Mason Taylor. We talked about Mason Taylor on Monday. Coming out here, he might be the last of the guys that you might want to take at tight end, and that's fine. He's a perfectly good option to take. The Caleb owner might take Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold doesn't super help me out. Having 2 week 8 quarterbacks. I don't think I'm going to do that. We'll see what quarterback makes its way back to me. All right. So where are we sitting at? 175. Again, we're just doing a millionaire DraftKings 186. All right, so Shipley should be able to make it back to me. Sampson should be able to make it back to me. That's fine. All right, we're going to go Braylon Allen here. Like I said, I like Pierce. I like Palmer. Palmer went at 170. So we have a little bit of an interesting build team. Nobody with like a super high stack other than, the Goff with Laporta and Gibbs. It's a little bit of more of an unconventional stack, not having Amon-Ra in there. Will it play out in week 17? It could. Minnesota's defense, will be open to attack by Gibbs and Laporta. So I think that all things said and done, I don't think it's like a bad stack to get. When it comes to bringbacks, the bringbacks on this team specifically that I'm building isn't great. We have some correlation in terms of, Pearsall, Burden, Kirk, and Trey, Walker, nobody else yet. Nobody from Carolina. Maybe we take Coker on this team to get another week 14 bye player. We have Brown with Cook. and Gibbs with Hawkinson. So, you know, as it goes, it's not a terrible team. Darnold there, 8, round 15. If Rodgers is still here in round 16, I have to take him because I only have Goff as my quarterback. I love Will Shipley. You know, people are saying that Will Shipley, you know, if you believe, like we've said before, if you believe in the curse, then you want to go Will Shipley. Will Shipley at value here at 180, I think is tremendous. Lloyd could be a good value here if Jacobs goes down. I'm not sleeping on Emmanuel Wilson either. We've talked a little bit about Lloyd and Emmanuel Wilson on the show over the last couple of weeks. This guy here with 6 running backs, Genty, Pollard, and then just a hodgepodge of guys that could potentially hit, I think is interesting enough. Here we have Jimmy C taking 4 tight ends, Andrews, Kincaid, Loveland, and Otten. Okonkwo and Mason Taylor to go with Evan Ingram, I think is a good buy. He also has 3 quarterbacks building in there. We'll see how it turns out. What's MHJ's price tag looking like? When we look at MHJ just here in this specific draft, it's 3rd round. ADP isn't crazy right now. He's ranked 35. Everybody's hoping that he takes a substantial step forward, and I see all of that potentially happening. We saw that Aaron Rodgers just went off the board there. That's fine. Question is, do we buy Sampson or do we buy another wide receiver here in Pat Bryant? We'll see. Chubb's still there, 172, not terrible. And here's the thing about MHJ. MHJ is a potentially elite option. You're getting MHJ in the 3rd round. We'll go back to the draft board after I make my pick here. You're getting MHJ potentially in the 3rd round, and he could really light it up. Let me make my pick. I believe I'm the next one up. We're gonna take Sampson here. I think I want to take Sampson here. Maybe
What's up, boys?
not. What were you doing?
Dude, somebody's got to take a shit.
We're going to take Pat Bryant. We're going to push it a little bit more. And you'll see, guys, that I only have 1 quarterback. I'm going to pick up another one. The guys I wanted went kind of all around it. It's fine. I'm okay. Building out 8 wide receivers now. I've got 4 running backs. Not the 4th one, not as great. But as it goes to MHJ, you're getting MHJ who could potentially have elite level production, especially on DraftKings. Let's kind of just look at this, right? Is that there was a game last year, week 2, where he went off, broken coverages and whatnot, but four catches on 8 targets for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the upside. That's the upside. Then we look at the downside. The downside is 2 catches on 5 targets for 34 yards. So there is a huge disparity between his major upside and where his downside is. And I think because of that, that's why he's coming in this 3rd, 4th round range on DraftKings, because what we want to see, this is what we want to see out of Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. We want to see that reception number go up into like the 70s, 80s. We want to see that yardage number go into the thousands. And we want to see that touchdown number stay pretty much between like 8 to 12, somewhere in there. But if there are more 5-point games than there are 15-point games, that's kind of the damage here for him. Can he put up those games? Absolutely he can. Is he going to do that consistently enough? That's where the question mark is. And that's baked into his value here in the 3rd round. Because you can make a reasonable argument to say that a guy like T. Higgins and a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. aren't that far off from one another. And if you did any of these early drafts at all, Marv and T
they're always next to each other.
Much more closely situated. Now there is a further gap because we are getting encouraging.
The schedule is released.
Well, also we're getting encouraging news about Rashee Rice. We're getting encouraging news from the coaching staff about Garrett Wilson's talents, etc. And John, who was just traded, which opens the door for Tyreek Hill. So Marv Marv has fallen back down, but not because he's not the same player he was. It's because people are wanting to take other players.
Well, people are waking up and realizing he's not the guy that he was advertised to be coming out of Ohio State.
But I think he's fine enough. Like, I think that his talent level is there.
He's fine enough that you won't get left out of the room, but he's not fine enough to win you a league.
If you're taking him in the 3rd round, I think he is. If you're taking him in the 4th round, I think he is. If you're taking him in the 2nd round, probably not. Realistically,
I think he's a 4th rounder at best.
There goes Theo. Did you take Theo?
No, I took Fryermuth, baby.
For Dynasty, his price tag is higher in Dynasty. So if Jamie were here, he would be able to share his opinion about that. But I think in Dynasty that he's going to situate you right into that conversation, probably in the conversation of where people feel like Ladd and Garrett Wilson are, like somewhere in that conversation. All right, so draft board.
Bob, how much do you hate my team, by the way?
I haven't been able to look at it because I'm running kind of potentially some damage control in certain aspects.
I kind of think I hate my own team.
Well, we'll take a look at it after the draft. After the draft, we'll take a look at it. We'll see what's going on, and we'll go from there. I've got to put some focus into these last 3 picks because I know what I need. I know what I want to take, and I don't know what's going to be on the board. So that's kind of.
I know that I can't count to 4.
You can't count to 4?
Yeah. I was like, oh, I have 5 picks left. This is the 17th round. Nope, I have 3 picks left.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You never want that to kind of enter into the discussion. You don't want to be sitting here and being like, oh, well, I'm good. I have a lot of picks left. And then no, you don't.
Especially when you're chasing a receiver, which I am.
Oh, you only have 5.
Yeah.
Well, I only have 4 running backs. If that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, I probably should not have used the pick on the 5th running back that I did. I definitely should not use the pick on the 4th quarterback. But
you took a 4th quarterback.
Yeah, I got both at Indies.
So you're the guy that's killing me on quarterback. You and pick
the guy who took Hurts.
Yeah. If I would have
could easily been built as a 2 quarterback build with Lamar.
It should have been. If I ended up with Hurts and Goff, I'd have been feeling real good about this team. But I got Russell Wilson. I don't necessarily feel that great about, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, you got to build some weird builds. They happen sometimes, man.
Being honest. But Russ can cook, right? I mean, I want to believe that Russ can cook, but they did draft Jackson Dart with some high draft capital. So as soon as Russ isn't cooking, it's Jackson Dart.
I'm 100% sure from watching the game film last year, Russ can't cook. Russ is done.
Well, if Russ can get me to week 8 when Goff has a bye and then Shuck or Russell Wilson is playing, fine, whatever. It happens. I do like Jalen Coker, though. I think Jalen Coker down here at 209 could be one of the steals of the draft. I understand they just went out and got Ted. I understand they have J.C. Horn as well. I understand Thielen's back as well. But let's just take a glance here, right? And I want to take a glance here at just a couple of games, right? You're looking at a ceiling like this, right? But again, a floor like that. In best ball, if you have a ceiling potentially like that, where if I can get a game of you where you're reliable enough to catch 7 balls and you're throwing it 7 times, why would I stop throwing the ball to you? Right? There's reason to assume that 3 for 3, 4 for 4, 4 for 6. You have this putrid 3 for 8. But again, he's cheap enough that if he pays off, that price, you could send it to the moon, right? Same to go with Noel as well. Coming down here, this is kind of the reason too, guys, where I advocate so strongly for not taking early tight end. This build I did because I knew that I wanted a little bit of that Minnesota-Detroit game. But this is the reason to not take them. Look at how many tight ends are on the board that you would probably rather have than Darius Slayton. How many tight ends you'd rather have than DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, like, I won't besmirch DeAndre Hopkins because I think he was an exceptional player when healthy, but last year was not it. You had this game 4 for 9 for 90 yards. But he was his ceiling. Again, I talked about ceiling game. This came 8 for 9 for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. I believe that was that against Kansas City, or was that his first game with Kansas City? I think that was his first game with Kansas City. But now he's in an offense with Lamar. Maybe you could say, Joe, that DeAndre Hopkins, what's up, George? That DeAndre Hopkins could be a steal enough. I mean, if they don't believe in Andrews, but
I've just seen that every old receiver that's gone down to Baltimore has done nothing.
It's true. It's true. Can't walk away from that. That's a fact. All right. We're going to take Monangai here. Yeah. Blake Corum's still on the board. That's interesting to me. 214.
I would have gone Corum over Monangai.
Yeah, but I have a couple week 8 buys already, dude. So I need someone that could potentially help me on that week 8 when Walker and Gibbs are both out. Knowing that I have Braylon Allen, or Braylon Allen and Cook. So,
I'm getting eaten up by the week 8 buy.
What's up, George?
3 of my top 4 receivers are out in week 8.
That's fine. So Jamie said here to help you out, Andre, that in Dynasty, Marv's market price is around wide receiver 14, but I don't see him being sold for anything cheaper than the top 10 because he does have top 5 talent. Yeah, Jamie kind of just summarizing what I told you, Andre, is that, like, again, he's in this range down here, right? Even in Dynasty, but people don't want to sell him for anything less than a Puka or anything less than a J Jeff. And even if you add in some picks, he's going to be because you have to think of it. People were taking him last year, like player number 1 overall, player number 2 overall. And, in fantasy football, sometimes you have to have like a limited memory about when you took guys and like how much value you want to get back. But for a guy like Marv, he didn't pay out for you last year. If you kept him, then you're going to want more this year because you're expecting him to have the year 2 breakout. So I can see many reasons why Marv is a very polarizing player when it comes to these drafts. There goes Jaquez Hunter. Yeah, I like Corum just because he has a little bit in the system, and but I can see the reason to like Jaquez Hunter in Dynasty particularly. Like if you're doing Dynasty, Hunter is probably the guy you want over Corum when they get rid of Kyron. But again, like in these best ball drafts, I'm not sure that I want Jarquez Hunter at all. And I'm actually kind of shocked that he went over Corum. Because I think it's firmly, I honestly think it's firmly cemented that the Rams will use Kyron Williams until he's dead. And I don't think it's like that far off to say that. All right. Mostert's still there. He was your boy last year.
Sure was. Didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to, though.
That'll happen. Man, I'm really not liking like anything that's on the board right now. I know it's the last round, but
the Duke Lazard was gonna be my dude. Sitting on him, the Duke of Lazard, Alan Lazard.
We're gonna take Rashard Smith. Why not? And we'll just review the board afterwards. But that was not as sexy as I wanted it to be. But I do think at that value, Marv is a great pick. So if you're looking here and you're looking at other guys that you could want, like I said, I like Devontae Adams. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. In this draft, I just took Devontae Adams. I have had drafts where I have taken all of these wide receivers, with the exception of Terry McLaurin, unless I have Jaden Daniels. I've taken all these wide receivers. And looking at the wide receivers above them, like I said, you can make many reasonable arguments that all of the guys in the third round could outperform T. Higgins. But T. Higgins is one of those players that if he's on the field and he plays, he could potentially end up with production that you could see out of a guy like Neighbors, out of a guy like CeeDee Lamb. I mean,
so George, I'm going to disagree. Marv is going to be the steal of the draft because I believe that guy's name is Tillman. Tillman is being slept on so hard.
Let's pump your brakes on Tillman for a minute, Joe. I want to finish this point on Marv. So when you look at it here and you just look at the game log, especially for DraftKings here, 44-point fantasy upside, low floor.
Thank you, Bones. Marv is great, but Murray's bottom 16.
Disagree.
Thank you, Bones.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly, Bones. Murray
Bones, I love you. I thank you for saying it. You're a beautiful person.
Murray is not is not an exceptional quarterback by any means, but bottom, I don't know about that. When we just look at these players though, with Marv and T, you have T tied to one of the best pure quarterbacks in football right now, and you're looking at this number: 10 touchdowns, 911 yards. You could say, right, if the curse of the number one overall player hits again, and Chase goes down to 1,400 yards or 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns, he's still going to be the number one overall player the next year. And then that production, hey, maybe it goes to Higgins, and Higgins finally gets up, this next year and hits, 90 receptions, which he could do, and 1,100 yards with 11 touchdowns. Like T. Higgins, while Marv could skate into the second round by year's end in terms of value, T. Higgins could eclipse many of those talents that are in the first round. And he's just that type of player. He's just that good. If he didn't have that injury risk, Joe, I see the questions in the chat. If he didn't have that injury risk, Joe, would you take him? If T. Higgins didn't have the injury risk and it inherently built into his value, would you take him over guys like A.J. Brown, Ladd, and Neighbors?
No, not a chance.
I was just curious.
Higgins gives you too many zeros because Burrow locks into Chase too much sometimes, and that's just the reality.
Quite frankly,
I definitely would take him in a redraft. I don't want Higgins at all in a redraft. He's too fluctuational.
I mean, he gives you, when he plays, look at this from 15, 16, 17, playing 19, 19, 44. The only zeros I see is when he's hurt, which was week 1, week 2, week 8, week 9, potentially. I don't know what their bye week was last year.
Yeah, so the point is I also think that Cincinnati's offense is going to be much slower than people think it's going to be. So, George, to answer your question here about Caleb Johnson and wanting him over Warren, he's not going to be a week 1 starter. He's probably not going to be a September starter for you. Tomlin is very old school in not starting rookies he doesn't have to, and he loves Warren. That being said, Warren has never had more than 17 touches in a game, and Tomlin loves running the ball more than anything else. So Johnson's going to get love, especially the second half of the year. I think he's a great guy to help you pull through the playoffs, but you're also depending upon the Steelers to have leads when they're playing teams like Miami. So I'm not totally sure that's a good bet.
This is the problem, George. When you look at Najee, like I said,
you can't compare the two of them. Najee Harris did not fit into his system. Unless you're looking at carries.
I'm looking at attempts. That's all I'm looking at. Okay. When you look at the Steelers and you think about how the Steelers are built, and you look at the attempts that Najee had last year and the attempts that Jaylen Warren had last year. Let's just take this week 10 game against Washington, because that was a game where the Steelers were competitive, right? 21 carries for Najee that week. You come down. I'm not sure if Warren was playing that week, but we'll take a look and see. He was 14 carries for Warren. So that's 35 carries in that game, right? So you look at it and you say, well, that's like if the Steelers are doing really well, even though they have Aaron Rodgers, right, that an upside could be 35 potential carries opened up for total for this team. Then when they're not needing these players, let's take a look at another week here. Where did Naj get drafted again? There he is. So then you take a look at
Naj blew his eye out. That is,
right?
He's a good guy in real life. He just isn't fast enough to hit the C gap.
Week 16 against Baltimore, they lost 17-34, 9 carries. Okay, that same week, Jaylen Warren is probably not as productive either, but gets 12 carries. So you're looking at, the Steelers are definitely going to run the ball at least 20-ish times a game. How will that be split up between Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson? You could reasonably assume that early in the season, they'll want to get Caleb Johnson rolling because Mike Tomlin is the type of coach that when he gets a guy that he wants that fits the profile of the Steelers, he's going to use it. So you could see
he'll use them from October on. Again,
you're going to see by week 9, Caleb probably assuming 19 to 24 carries a game, depending on if the Steelers are winning. I like Caleb Johnson a lot. I think his value
in the long run. I think
his value in the 8th round in this league, specifically in DraftKings, is interesting, and his value in underdog is also interesting to me as well. Scorpio.
George, I'm the same way. Get the running back depth. Now, Scorpio, this is a good question. So
I've already answered your question. We're going to answer it in a couple other ways.
Well, I don't think I think that's 100% right what Bone said. I don't think there's a running back worth having to get J-Jeff because you're talking dynasty here. J-Jeff's prime is much longer than what a running back's is going to be. The only running back, like even in consideration, who's young enough would be Gibbs or Bijan. But I don't think you're getting that trade done.
So that's the problem, Scorpio.
I'd rather have J-Jeff because the career's longer.
What Bones and Joe said about J-Jeff is absolutely certain. Like the careers of wide receivers are in their prime, like he said, are potentially longer than running backs in their prime. Not potentially, they're actually pretty much longer unless you count Derrick Henry, right? So
which Gibbs isn't. Bijan might be. Gibbs isn't.
When we look at who you would want to trade and how much that would cost you, I actually think that people wouldn't want to do a 1-for-1 with J-Jeff and Brian and Bijan. People wouldn't want to do a straight 1-for-1 for Gibbs either, because the value for Gibbs and Robinson are so high. Because when you look at the board,
there's no other running back you replace it with,
and you see young running backs like Bijan. People got a steal on Bucky last year, and then you look at Genti Achane as being like the other young options that are potentially elite options that you can have. There are much more options at wide receiver here in Dynasty than there are at running back. And the problem is that if you want to go 1-for-1 with a running back, people are not going to just give up Bijan for J-Jeff. They're going to
make you pay more.
They're going to want to ask for picks, and they're going to want to ask for players, because the running back, I think, is so valued from that positional standpoint that I would just stick with J-Jeff and just search somewhere else, because you can't do a good 1-for-1 trade that makes sense. And especially this point here, unless you have a team, Bones is suggesting here, who do you have that's better than JJ? Well, if you're in a dynasty league, you potentially could have a team that has Jefferson, Neighbors, and BTJ. You could potentially have a team that has Jefferson, Puka, and Neighbors as well. So maybe you do have some depth there, Scorpio. But realistically speaking, it makes sense to keep J-Jeff, who this year, the quarterback play might not be tremendous.
See, I'm not worried about the quarterback play. That coach is smart enough to make things happen.
You're looking at a player that in a full PPR, his average is almost 20 points, right? And you skip that over to Gibbs, you're only losing about 4 points there on average with Gibbs, and you're almost matching it with Bijan. So there's realistically, unless your running back room is absolutely horrendous and your wide receiver room looks like, the Hall of Fame, there would be no reason to trade out of JJ. I mean, that's kind of
yep.
that's kind of what we're looking at here. Now, looking at this board, Joe,
we appreciate those that did subscribe today. We always love the new people to join in and subscribe.
You asked me a question, and I haven't answered that question yet. You said,
well, this will be the last question we answer. Then, how much do you hate my team? Is basically the question.
How much do I hate your team? So we're going to look at it.
Yep.
And we're going to see how much I hate your team. So let's pull you up here. So Joe, drafting from the 6 hole, Lamar,
5 hole,
Rockey, Kamara. You drafted from 6 or 5. Yeah, you drafted from 5. Okay. So Lamar, Bucky, Kamara, Nico, Jacoby, Cup. I don't like Jacoby and Cup together. I would have taken one or the other. Njoku, Hubbard. I love Hubbard. I love Hubbard as a flex there. That's nice. With Tyrone Tracy, Javonte Williams is who he is. I will never other than that 1 week in DFS where I was sounding the horn and then he just shit the bed. Tillman, Stroud, Beck, Strange, Richardson. I don't like that you went both. With Indianapolis quarterbacks. Here's the problem. You guys have seen me take both Indianapolis quarterbacks in Superflex before, and I have done it at the very back end of early drafts as well. But if you have Lamar, right? If you have Lamar.
Yeah, I know. It's the argument.
No. If you have Lamar and you wanted to do this, then you shouldn't have taken Stroud. I understand you wanted that stack of Stroud with Nico.
That's what I wanted.
If you have Lamar and you're going to do something like this to eat away at your positional value, because look, you ended up with 4, 5, 8, 3. I'm at 3, 6, 8, 3. There's a reason to say that you're just burning a quarterback spot on a quarterback that realistically probably isn't going to surpass Lamar on a week-to-week basis. That's why I'm saying.
That's why I said you're going to hate it. I knew I did it wrong when I did it.
No,
I knew I did it wrong when I did it.
What I'm saying is that I think if you wanted to do that, if you were planning on trying to do that, that Stroud would have been the player that I wouldn't have bought.
See, I wasn't planning on do that. I just didn't like when it came time for the Daniel Jones pick, there was no one else I liked. I think I came to the conclusion I just hate rookie roulette. And
like I said, I kind of hate my team, but again, it has potential. Let me just go over this really quickly, comparatively. We have Goff, we have Gibbs, we have Sam Laporta. I think Goff is valuable in this format when you stack him with Gibbs. Again, there is elite upside, but again, he could really not hit. He's the only quarterback that I would realistically stack with my running back on any given day. James Cook gives me a little bit of a bring back with AJ Brown. I wish Hurts would have felled me. I was hoping that would happen. Going with Devontae Adams, nothing off of that from for the playoffs. But again, I think Adams is a nice touchdown producer. Pearsall with a little bit of reception upside there. Sam Laporta with Hawkinson. I think both of these tight ends,
tight end advantage most weeks.
When we look at it, they could pop off for the 17 plus points, which can make my flex position. So maybe Walker doesn't need to be in the flex. Maybe he'll end up in the running back slot more often than not. And then just kind of some chances here with Trey, Kirk, Burden. I was a little weak at wide receiver. I don't think this necessarily makes me stronger, but it's potentially some reception depth. Likely I like as another tight end option on a week-to-week basis. Wandale, I knew I was going to have to build a Giants quarterback, so I took Wandale. Braylon Allen, coach speak. Pat Bryant, coach speak. Monangai and Rashard Smith. I don't think
I don't buy into coach speak. What you guys should buy in is subscribing to Local Football Flavor, and we'll see you live on Monday at 3:45 Eastern, guys.
Thanks for all the likes and comments, guys.
Love those new subscribers.